if healing isn't just in your mind, but in your body, your memories, and even in your subconscious? So today we're going to be joined by Sharmi, who is a model, a dancer, Miss Universe Canada delegate, and the founder of Unlimited Her Mind, an initiative that empowers immigrant women and women of color to break free from any subconscious limiting beliefs that they have. So this is a story of beauty, of brains, and breaking systems. Let's get into it. Hi Sharmi, how are you doing?
How are you?
Good, good. It's so lovely to have you on here. It's so cool to see like a woman of color going into and representing people who look like me as a model and dancer. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself and talk more about the incredible things that you do.
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I agree with you because I think that, just being in a platform like Miss Universe Canada, like being South Asian and being a woman of color, like it's one of the things that I'm personally like very happy about, that, we're representing our culture. But to introduce myself, I mean, I think you've done a pretty good job yourself. But yes, I'm a Miss Universe Canada delegate. I'm also currently pursuing my master's in counseling psychology. And apart from that, I have launched my platform called Unlimited Her Mind, which is to help women rewire their mindset to dismantle patriarchal conditioning. And that's the type of work that I do. I do that through mindset work. I have launched a free ebook if anyone wants to check that out. I have also hosted some impactful workshops. And of course, I have ongoing social media publications and media publications that are always happening, like being in a podcast. So, yeah.
No, that's lovely. We'll be sure to link the ebook and all of those resources for anyone interested in our bio. But since you talked about psychology, I'd love to dive right into it. As somebody who's studying such a complex and human-oriented major, what does psychology usually get wrong about mental health?
I would say that Western psychology just looks at like mental health happening inside of your head. And it
Mhm.
just looks at kind of like an individual perspective. But coming from an immigrant family and a South Asian background, we are so heavily influenced by our culture. And that can truly have a huge effect on our conditioning. And that's what I realized within my family. And that is why I kind of started my entire advocacy when it comes to patriarchal conditioning, because us women, especially women of color and immigrants, are so heavily influenced by culture. And that's why it's so important to understand that subconscious aspect of ourselves and, of course, dismantle it.
You're completely correct. I know that when I was talking to my own therapist about it, her also being a POC was so lovely because there's just some things that are difficult to explain and shared experiences that are difficult to explain as somebody who comes from, for example, like I'm Indian, so being in a culture focused on community, in a culture that's focused on utilitarianism rather than just looking after yourself, really changes the kind of biases you have in your mind that you don't even realize. Being an older sister and a POC really shifts the way that I orient myself. I've become much more of a people pleaser because I want to make sure I'm taking care of everyone and looking after everyone, because I come from a culture that's so oriented towards, hey, we're doing this together. But that kind of leads into the next question I wanted to ask. How does therapy look like for individuals versus what can it look like for immigrant families? Like, how can we evolve it to better serve these communities?
I would say that, mental health is still stigmatized. It's not a very prominent or very open subject that we talk about. And, our parents, they've gone through their own hardships in their life, and especially immigrant parents. And for them, they've just dealt with it. They've not even considered all these mental health issues, even though they might have been facing them at that time. It really wasn't a thing. They don't even consider that as an issue. But of course, our generation is so much more aware of it. We talk about it, we acknowledge it, and of course, we experience it ourselves. So I think it just starts off with talking about it. And I think it's our responsibility as today's generation to even help our parents understand that our what we're facing and the time that we're living in is very different than what they have faced. And so I think just talking about it, opening these conversations will really help not just destigmatize this topic, but it will educate them about the issues that we may have in the modern world as well.
I agree. I think talking to my dad and just mentioning that I go to therapy is something that took a while for him to acclimate towards, not because he was like anti therapy, but there's nothing wrong with you though. But there doesn't necessarily have to be something wrong for you to want to, the way I like to see it, is like do a mental health check in. with yourself, or even unpack things that you didn't know you're subconsciously holding onto. I think a lot of parents tend to be on that train of go, go, go. I just need to get things done, survival mode type of thing, because they've, had to move to a different country with an entire family. Whereas I think our generation has been privileged enough not to have to deal with that. We were settled in. We have other struggles for sure, but it may be something that doesn't feel as drastic to our parents as it does to us in this moment.
Mhm.
So, like you said, just kind of bringing it up to them, getting them comfortable with the idea of like therapy is something normal and okay, makes such a big difference with our relationship with them, and more importantly, our relationship with ourselves.
Of course.
But I think one of the things that kind of gets lost in the sauce with mental health is just reducing it to terms like self care and therapy. What aspects of mental health do we miss when we just shut it down to those two big buzzwords?
So what I talk about is our subconscious mind. With my education in counseling psychology, I learned about neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to kind of let go of old thoughts and beliefs and instill new thoughts and beliefs. But in order to do that, you have to rewire it. So I think that there are so many experiences in our lives, so many things that we hear through our, and the things that we just kind of perceive through our senses that may have a huge effect on our subconscious. And our subconscious is what actually has a huge influence on how we show up in the world, our personalities, our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves. And again, we may not be even aware of those things. That's why it's in our subconscious mind, not conscious. So I think it's so important that we start, like, I want to kind of bring awareness to that, okay, like you need to understand that what have been those experiences in your life. Usually they're negative. What is something that maybe, when you were 8 years old, someone said to you that has just instilled in your brain? You need to recognize that, be more mindful, do a little bit of introspection. And that is when we will be able to understand our subconscious mind and then rewire our brain for a more positive, confident, empowered belief and thoughts about ourselves.
That's so cool. I know that neuroplasticity is something that is kind of like name dropped here and there, especially when me and my friends were studying diseases like dementia and like the importance of practicing developing neuroplasticity as you get to an older age. But I really like the connection that you made between that and kind of relaxing your brain enough to be able to untangle the knots that have been made through your own experiences. Are there practices people can take into account in their daily lives to help improve neuroplasticity?
Harleen, I'm so happy that you asked me that because literally through my platform, Unlimit Her Mind, I am teaching women how to rewire their mindset. And that is through things like affirmations. And remember that all of these techniques, they require consistency. You can't just do them once and then be like, okay. Like these are daily practices that you can do at home at your own time, but they are so effective. So first, I would say affirmations. Second, I would say visualization. Visualizing is also very important. And the third is acting as if. So we all, first of all, need to understand who we want to become. What is that highest version of ourselves, or what type of belief do we want to replace? And once we have that idea, that's when we can start implementing things like affirmations, visualizations, and acting as if techniques that will cater to that ideal belief or version that we're trying to get into.
It's very similar to the concept of surrounding yourself with what you want to be or the friends that you want to be like, because your brain just subconsciously absorbs that as you kind of live in your day to day.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering though, so you're talking a lot about how women have these subconscious beliefs. Are there patterns that you see in what women tend to believe about themselves through the people that you've talked to via Unlimit Her Mind?
So, Harleen, you might be surprised, but in Canada, even in a modern and progressive country like Canada, over 60% of women are still feeling the pressure to conform to traditional expectations. And that is, caregiving, being modest, being obedient. And this is especially in immigrant and women of color families. Because unfortunately, I mean, we don't want to believe it or we don't want to accept it, but there's so much sexism embedded in
Mhm.
our culture. Women, usually when I've talked to, especially women in our older generation, so my mother, for example, the reason why this entire platform even started was because of my mother. My mother was married off young, and she was told that her main purpose as a woman was to get married and raise a family. And she sacrificed her dreams, her ambitions, and her even desire to further her education because she was first limited by her father, who got her married, even when she really wasn't really ready to, because she was, of course, young. And then she was also, those restrictions continued through her life by my dad, by her husband. And the one thing that she told me is that, just, Charmy, don't let that happen to you. And that is what really fueled my purpose, because I realized that this was not just my mother's story. It's a story of countless other women. Because every time I talk to an auntie, she has such a similar story. And that's when I decided that, we need to empower women. Before we can change anything external, you have to change what you understand about yourself. Because this entire patriarchal conditioning exists because women are felt to be okay with feeling unworthy or that they deserve less. And that's what we need to change. My entire purpose or my entire advocacy is about helping women rewire their mindset so that they could tune into their most confident and empowered self and understand their worth in woman, understand their worth as a woman, and then be able to stand up for the injustices that they are facing.
That's such a lovely story, and I know that as you were talking about it, I was thinking about like my own mother, about like my friends' moms and my aunts and uncles that have such a similar upbringing, just because it was such a different time to be alive, and the expectations were so stifling. It's something that I'm really happy that I don't have to deal with as much in the same way, I guess. But you mentioned it briefly. I would love to know what are what have those limiting beliefs transitioned into in our generation? Because I completely agree. I think sexism has a really eerie way of rearing its head into spaces that we don't really realize, through microaggressions, through even the way that like salaries are oriented, the way that you're treated in the workplace. But what does that look like in your day to day?
Well, first of all, pay inequity, which is something that you just talked about. So in Canada, Canadian women are earning only 87 cents for every dollar a man is making.
That's
Also,
crazy.
that is crazy. And also, one out of every three Canadian women experiences sexual harassment at work. And on top of that, despite in Canada, there's more woman population than men, by the way, only 23.3% of Canadian women are appointed to executive roles. And of course,
That's mind-boggling. Like that, like if you think about the fact that there's already disproportionately more females in a population, and you're actively only choosing to promote males because they seem more aggressive, they seem more like oriented towards growth, but if you transition those same traits into a female, then she's bitchy or she's too driven and she should be more motherly and nurturing. Like there's so much hypocrisy in that, and it's so frustrating because I'm surrounded by these like talented, incredible people that should be getting promotions, that should be getting that bag, and you're not. That's insane.
it is insane. And it's even more insane because we don't really realize that in a country like Canada, Canada is a first world country, so it's seen as so progressive, so modern. But this is so embedded. And that's why I wanted to start, kind of bringing that entire topic of patriarchy, because we don't really talk about it. No one really even realizes that it exists. Sometimes women don't even realize that, oh, I'm this, like, I deserve more. And so
Yeah,
that's what I want to do. I want women to I want to shake their heads
you're like,
and
baby girl, you deserve more, please.
deserve more. Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking to think about how many women go to work and feel unsafe there because they might be harassed or catcalled, or just like the little micro things that you don't really feel comfortable with if someone brushes against you. No, you're like, that's just icky. And the fact that this is such a normal experiences that women, I know if it happens to me, I'm just like, okay, whatever, that's gross, I'm gonna ignore it. But the fact that it's so repetitive that it's just become a part of it's just part of being a girl. Well, it shouldn't. It really should not be an experience that's so universal,
Mhm.
you know? But I'm glad that you're creating a platform to talk about it, because as soon as you bring in I think any of the isms or anything that's as heavy as patriarchy and racism and just anything in regards to the discrimination of people, we usually jump to the extremes of what that can look like on a societal level. Think back to civil rights movements, even now and during Pride Month, the idea of being able to cater to the liberation of an entire group of people. But that starts from a much smaller, much more controlled level, aka how you raise your daughters, how you treat your female friends, and even how you treat yours. Because if you think that you don't deserve better, you're not going to look for better either, right?
I was just going to expand what you just said, because all the power is truly just within ourselves. And that's what we need to do. We need to understand that before, before I make any external changes, I have to make that internal shift. So I
Mm-hmm.
agree with what you said.
Yeah. Was there a big internal shift that you dealt with specifically? Was there something that you had to unlearn through your own experiences?
So, Harleen, I've faced my good share of setbacks, rejections, in the modeling industry, in my personal life, in relationships, and things like that. You know, we all kind of go through moments in our life where we feel rejection, we feel heartbreak, we feel like we're not chosen. So, a huge belief that I had before I did my first pageant, which was Miss Regional Canada last month in May, was that I had this deep rooted feeling that I'll never be chosen no matter what. I will always just be the second choice, but I will never actually be able to be on the top or be the choice. And through the techniques that I told you, affirmations, visualizations, and acting as if techniques, I implement them. I do these things every single day because I believe in manifestation. And I also know that these things are so important to actually rewire your mindset. I did rewire that belief. And when I went into my first pageant at Miss Regional Canada, I knew that there's going to be girls that are more experienced than me, that are probably doing the same exact pageant the second time. And this is my first ever experience. You never know. But all I really knew is I'm not going to go into that pageant carrying that belief that I don't deserve to be here and that I don't have what it takes to be chosen. And I mean, with that, that really helped me kind of go through my pageant experience in my first one. And I mean, I made it as a top 3 finalist. I think
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
there was some progress there. Of course, next aim is to get the crown, and I know that the crown will be in my head someday.
You will. I think you're so right. Unless you truly believe it in yourself, you can't carry yourself with the confidence of someone who has it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I think that experience then helped me. So of course that belief, but then that belief helped me have a new experience that changed, that kind of brought it into reality. And now I have more of that confidence that okay, no, like I can do this and I can be chosen.
That's amazing. And I think that that's a very universal feeling of I'm scared if I don't agree or I'm not agreeable, I'm never gonna be chosen or people are gonna leave. But in reality, it's I think the women that we look up to are the ones that have the strongest boundaries to be like, no, 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 I know what I stand for, I know what I'm worth. I'm not gonna deal with like shitty behavior. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And I think that shows a lot of strength, and I'm glad that you were able to reclaim your autonomy through modeling because that's such an empowering story. I'm so proud of you. Like, go girl, slay. I wanted to kind of get a gauge as somebody who isn't in the side of performance, but is there a difference between being perceived while modeling and being perceived as a dancer or in the world of pageantry?
I would say so, yes. So they're all, of course, a common thing is that they all require performance, but in very different ways. As a model, I believe that you don't really get to showcase the substance in you, your personality. It's kind of like you're just a pretty face and that's it. You're just a person with a nice
Yeah.
face. And all you have to really show. As a dancer, it's my way of showcasing strength. So dancing, I mean, I'm an Indian classical dancer. I've been learning Kathak professionally for the past 2 years. And I do it because it connects me to my Indian culture, but it also is my way of showcasing my strength and kind of showing resistance to all of the the traditional expectations and the barriers that we talked about. But it's a great way to express yourself without any words and just through your body. But with pageantry, you are kind of showcasing your entire self. Pageantry gives you that platform that gives a woman a platform that she's not just a pretty face or she's not someone that has this talent, but she also has substance. She has that ability to create an impact. So pageantry is kind of like that complete package where you are showcasing everything you have to offer. The impact that you can make in the community, your beliefs, your personality, of course your beauty and your style. So it really is a complete package, which is why I personally love it so much and got into it.
That's really cool because I think you're coming in from, you're really, like you said, bringing together two different perspectives where it's not just superficial, it's not just expression, but now it's being able to talk about the impact, the power, your own story behind it. And it's only through stories that we can relate to each other. So there's going
Mhm.
to be another little girl being like, oh my God, my mom was dealing with the same thing, or I want to be just like her. And it's just powerful to be able to hold that space in another person's life. That's so cool. You briefly talked about dancing and Gathak, which is incredible. But I'd love to know your thoughts about how movement has served you and how it serves as a tool for working through those beliefs.
So dancing is a form of self-care, because it gives you that opportunity to just let go of everything that you're feeling. I've been doing this for 2 years, and let me tell you that every week my life is different. I go once a week to my classes. Every week, of course, we have, sometimes we have good weeks and good days, and sometimes we have bad weeks and bad days. But one thing that's been consistent is every time I go to my dance class and I'm dancing, I'm able to, it's kind of like my way of reflecting. While I'm dancing, I'm expressing myself, but I'm also letting go of those emotions. I'm reflecting on what's happening in my life. So it really is pretty therapeutic, and it's a form of self care, which is another reason why I do it.
That's amazing. Really resonate with that because that's what cross country running was for me back in high school. When you're just in a space where your body's moving, you are so aware of everything around you. It kind of gets you out of your own head. I know in therapy, my therapist Carmina mentions the value of being able to feel somatically, not just intellectually, where our muscle for logic is so strong because we're always thinking, we're always analyzing and clocking things in our environment. Where somatically, like, where do you feel anxiety? Where are you feeling joy and peace? And being able to let go of emotion through your body, like release tension while dancing, while running, or swimming, or whatever it might be for somebody. And being able to feel comfortable taking up space because I know that as a woman, that's something that is always or has been a difficult journey to get through. I'm not sure for yourself, but I know personally speaking, like being able to speak up, take up space physically is something that isn't necessarily encouraged.
I love that point, actually. That's such a great point because, yeah, like as women, that's what we're told. We're told to shrink. We're told to be quiet. We're told to not really have our presence be felt. We're kind of just like the side character. But I love what you just said because, yes, like any type of movement or any type of exercise, any type of, like dancing or anything that you do, it allows you to take up space. And so it is contradicting with those, again, those like sexist beliefs. So yeah.
That yeah, exactly. But I know that beyond like dancing, you said that like there's the modeling, the pageantry. You do a lot of everything, which is incredible. But does it feel like having to take on so many titles comes with a cost, or has it always been something that kind of empowers you?
I think it's been more empowering, and that's because one thing kind of leads to the next. Pageantry was a very natural step for me to take, like next step for me to take because it aligns with what I'm already doing and who I already am. I mean, I am a performer, I'm a dancer, I'm a model, and I do aspire to be in the entertainment industry. And so I felt like, okay, pageantry is kind of like an accumulation of all of it. And so maybe I should try. Like, I should try this. But also because, again, I didn't want to just be perceived as someone with a talent or someone, with like a pretty face or something. I wanted to let people know that, okay, I do have substance in me. I do have so much more to offer. And I wanted to make sure that I'm doing justice to myself by expressing myself in all ways that I can. And that's what the pageant platform has given me. So yeah, everything has kind of just like seamlessly led into the next. It's been very empowering for sure.
I think that's great. And I think that that really shows how, when you kind of sit back and let the universe take care of you, how easily things go, because you're like, yeah, I've worked hard to become a model, I've worked hard to like dance, let me put that together and really make an impact. And that's incredible. But from my own personal experience, I know that with labels and ambition, it can be so go, go, go all the time that I've, personally speaking, neglected like stillness and inner peace for such a long time. How do you balance that? Like, how do you balance doing all of that while being comfortable with yourself, while being settled into yourself?
I think it's all about remembering why you started in the first place. As I said, that everything that I'm doing, I know leading me to my goals and my dreams. And now I also have a purpose for doing what I'm doing. My purpose for doing pageantry is to prove that women aren't just side characters or support systems, but they have the ability to create an impact. And of course, I'm doing this for my mother because I'm going into Miss Universe Canada not just representing myself, but representing my mother and countless other immigrants and women of color in Canada who have gone through the same experiences. So it all goes down to remembering why you started and knowing that if you do want to, create a change and do something in your life, it requires work. That's the tough little pill to swallow. But no, you're right. I mean, it can be overwhelming for sure. But then I do spend time in the day to just maybe like a 5-10 minute like little meditation where I'm listening to affirmations while breathing. Just like, and of course, like going to the gym and working out is another form of self-care. So I think just integrating self-care practices is very important, and just having that holistic while you're on the go and, trying to go after your dreams, you're also making sure that you're taking care of yourself. So yeah, integrating those self-care habits are very important.
Yeah, so that way it doesn't feel like it's all just piling up. You kind of release pressure as time goes on, so it's not one big explosion.
Mhm.
That's incredible. I guess the last question I wanted to propose to you was, what tips or insights do you have for young girls who want to get into pageantry, modeling, or dancing? What would you tell a younger version of yourself?
I would tell the younger version of myself that the power is all within you. That's the truth. It's all within you. So stop looking for external validation. Know that whatever has happened to you is not your fault, because we all go through adverse experiences in our life and that is not your fault. However, what you do about it is your responsibility. And that's why I encourage, like doing active things to rewire your mindset, because when you have a good mindset, that is when everything else will feel achievable. And that's what I will say, that just know that the power is within you. You have the ability to change things and make things happen. So just know your worth, know who you are, and know what you deserve, and start standing up for yourself.
That's amazing. I know that resonated with me personally. I was like, yeah, like, girl, you do not need to wait for anybody. That's fantastic. I'm sure, like, young Charmy would also agree. I really think that your advice and the platform that you are standing for is going to resonate with a lot of young girls. I know, even for me, being able to, like, connect with someone like you who is also a person of color, who's doing things that I really enjoy as well, being like, wow, she was able to take that and create such an impact with it, is so inspiring. And I really hope that, like, things go incredibly. You get that crown.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna be fantastic. Of course. I usually end off the podcast with like a fun little segment where we get to ask each other questions. This is a little goofy, silly time. So if you're down, we can get started with that right now.
Let's go, and I will try to answer as best as I can.
Of course. Okay. So just to ease into it, what's your favorite like bad TV show? Like guilty pleasure watch movie or TV show?
Oh my god. Okay, the only one that I could think of is like You on Netflix.
I love it.
I have to say that I wasn't a big fan of like the past 2 seasons, but like I still watch it anyways because I'm like, once you start something, you want to finish it. So But yeah.
No, I agree. He went to England, and I was like, okay, like the story feels like very for me, like whatever. But I need to know now. Like, I need to be there for when he gets arrested. Like, someone needs to catch this man, and I'm gonna be there to see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's so funny. I love it. Do you want to go next?
Okay, let's see. What is the nastiest thing you've eaten?
That's a really good question.
Or interesting. It doesn't have to be nasty because, like, yeah.
I feel like it's easier to do nasty. I'm trying to.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
So I'm vegetarian.
Okay.
So I feel like I've been able to veer away from like the crazy like moose meat type of shit.
Okay.
But
I agree
there's
because I'm a
this
vegetarian, so I don't really eat like there's nothing like nasty or anything.
yeah, exactly. I'm like the worst is like boiled like Brussels sprouts like that pretty
Good.
gross. But like really?
Brussels sprouts with like a nice like hot honey sauce. That's what I do. It's so good.
I didn't okay, that you cooked with that because when my parents make like Brussels sprouts with things, it's like just stir fried Brussels sprouts. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll eat everything around it, but this is this chunky like mini cabbage, and I'm like
No,
disgusting.
you should try with hot honey. It's really
The more you know. That's so good. The only other thing that I almost ate was you know at Costco they give free samples. I had like I was like a little kid I was asked. So I would go up and be like, hey, like can I have that? It was two biscuits and like something inside, so I thought it was like hummus or something. So I was about to take a bite, and my mom's like, yo, what's in that? It was crab. I fully was like about to eat crab. So that's like the closest close call.
okay.
But otherwise we're slaying.
Cool.
Okay, so I was wondering, what is the funniest thing that you believed or said as a little kid?
Funniest thing I've ever said as a little.
Or believed. Like it can be any like I know when I was a kid, I genuinely like could not go into like I would sprint out of dark rooms and I could not be in a dark room with a mirror. I was like that like if I stare too long, my reflection is gonna move and I'm gonna lose my mind. I was like, I can't do it. I don't have the sanity to be able to withstand that. I'm going.
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know about like a funny belief or something, but like I used to do like that Bloody Mary bathroom thing.
You're crazy. That's
That
so
was
funny.
like that's really scary. I don't know how I would never do something like that now. But that
Yeah, as an adult, I was like, I could never do what Child Me has done.
oh my god, that's yeah, no, that I mean, but I love horror movies by the way. I absolutely love supernatural stuff, but like we just don't want it in our life.
Yeah, I'm very much along the lines of if it's, I find several like lines detached from it, fantastic. I don't want that in my life. I do not have it in me to survive that. I volunteer to die early. I'm not here to like withstand all that. No.
Exactly.
Which is your favorite horror movie? I know this is not part of the, but I'd like to know.
Okay, that's really hard. But I have an opinion. I think Bollywood horror movies are like so much more better than Hollywood, okay? But though there are a lot. The horror story. It's a Bollywood.
Okay, okay. I'll add it to my watch list. I don't mind.
You should watch. It's very like underrated. It doesn't have like any big actors or anything, but like that's scary. But the one movie that I was actually like the reason why I love horror movies so much, and that was because I used to watch 1920, the first one. You don't know, okay, but
No, no, no.
that's
Totally
also
premise.
so 1920 was the first Bollywood or just first horror movie that I watched, and I've been watching it since childhood because my dad introduced it to me and my brother. And I used to get like now obviously like I've seen it like a million times, but like I used to literally get nightmares because of that movie. But I think that's a solid horror movie.
Okay, okay. I'll add to my watch list. For me, it's Sinister. Sinister, like, I can't do gore. I don't want to see any body dismorph. Like, no, keep that to
Yeah.
yourself. But I love supernatural ones. So Sinister was so creepy until the ending. I think the ending was stupid. But I was like, what do you mean? Children just like go berserk and try to kill their families? I'm like, thank God that my sister's only 3 years younger because if she tried this, game over. I can't do it.
What is your most irrational fear? 'Cause I have one, but
Okay. I am like, I can't stand mice and rats. Like, I can't do it.
that's pretty common.
I don't know what it Yeah, but the reason is really stupid because like for me, I've read about like I growing up, it was instilled in me that if you learn about your fear, you're not gonna be scared of it. And so like I was like, okay, I go back. My biggest fear is like, okay, as a kid, it was really stupid, but I couldn't put my head underwater because I was scared a shark was gonna like come and eat me. So I'd be like literally in my shower. But I was like, I refuse to close my eyes under the shower because the shark is gonna come and just kill me. And obviously it's not the same now, but I'm still a little scared. Like
No,
I'm still very aware.
I mean, it's quite irrational. I mean, a shark's not gonna come.
Yeah, because I was like, how would that even happen, Harley? It's like 14 feet long. But I'm like, nope, it's gonna find a way.
It's
So yeah.
gonna find a way to your house. I don't know how, but
What about you?
it will. Mine is tsunami. So I think yours is a little more irrational than
Incredibly more rational. I'm a dramatic girl. Like
mine.
I'm like go big or go home.
Yeah, but yeah, like I mean, mine's tsunamis. I don't know how. Okay, I've never experienced a tsunami, thank God, but it's scary. And I'm a swimmer. I swim. Like I swim. Okay, like I swim. Like it's totally fine. Like I can swim in deep water. But what scares me are waves. So if I go to a beach and there are like waves, I'm out. Like I can't do this.
You're
Yeah,
like
because like
game over.
anything that resembles a tsunami just freaks me out. I literally scream. Okay,
That's valid. Like tsunamis, the more like I'm telling you, the more you learn about your fears, the scarier they get. Because apparently, like they just show up as like really small
oh my
waves
God,
when you're in the water, and then when they get to the shore, they get 14 feet tall. And I was like, I am 5'1". I pretend to be 5'3". Hello, like no, that's insane.
that's why anytime I go to the beach and like I mean sometimes the waves are, but like naturally I went to the Bahamas once and holy the waves are dangerous there, okay? The beaches. In the beaches, like I mean the beach that I went to, like they were really tall and I couldn't. Like they were dangerous and it's honestly scary.
I'm just saying these fears sound very rational. Like,
Um,
okay, so the last question I'm gonna ask you is, what's the best compliment you've ever received, and why?
okay, so there was one time I was talking to a priest, and he's like a modern priest. Like, you know, he's only like in his mid 30s or something. So he was pretty like he's a cool guy. And we were just having a conversation. And I'm quite opinionated. So I don't care who you are, but if I don't agree with you,
I will tell you.
I won't agree with you, you know, in the most respectful way. But I mean at the end of our conversation while he was like leaving, he just randomly said to me, like in front of everyone, he's like, you know, you're very intelligent. And that, like, I like that because, I mean, it's such a simple compliment, but it was coming from a priest who, you know, he's very knowledgeable and, like, at a very good status himself, but also because you usually get complimented on your looks or something. But, like, when someone really compliments you in your, you know, intelligence or something about your personality, like, and especially when it kind of is coming from like a priest or someone kind of up there, then it just makes you feel good. So yeah,
No, that's lovely. I completely agree. I think compliments that talk about your character hit so much harder than the ones that are just like superficial. I really I really resonate with that. But I think that is kind of calling your wraps for this episode of Moments of Clarity. I really appreciate you coming on. It was such a pleasure to talk to you and to be able to learn more about your life and to share all of your incredible impacts with the people who are listening. So thank you again for hopping on, Sharmi.
thank you so much for the opportunity that you have given me to talk about myself, and it was so lovely talking to you.
And for those of you listening, thank you again for joining us in this episode of Moments of Clarity. We will see you next time.